I first talked about Shin Ultraman way back in 2019 when it had a 2021 release date, but after many developments and a global pandemic that delayed it an entire year, finally, in less than a month, Shin Ultraman is due to hit Japanese theaters on May 13th, 2022. Since enough has happened since the original video to warrant revisiting the subject, here we are, Shin Ultraman, Take 2. Shin Ultraman is a reimagining of the original Ultraman TV series from 1966, though it is not the first example of this, or even the first cinematic example. 1993's Ultraman Power owns the former distinction, and 2004's Ultraman the Next is owed the latter. But Shin Ultraman does appear to be the most faithful adaptation yet, and this particular spin on the classic TV series is from the men behind 2016's Shin Godzilla, and those men are Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi. Despite his love for Ultraman, Anno was presumably too busy finishing Shin Evangelion, the Japanese title of the rebuild of Evangelion films, to lead the charge for Ultraman's latest outing. So, while Anno handled writing and producing duties, his longtime friend and partner in crime on Shin Godzilla, Shinji Higuchi, is the sole director on this project. I've spoken extensively about Anno's experience with giant monsters and especially Ultraman, which includes his fan-made short film with Daikon Films in the early 80s, and the influence Ultraman had on his own properties. But Higuchi is no stranger to the Ultra series either. His first brush was as a storyboard artist on Akioji Soji's Ultra Q the Movie, Legend of the Stars in 1990, and 3 years later, he helped with the monsters for Ultraman Powered. Here he is. Yep, the guy has come a long way. Outside of his Ultra-related work, Higuchi has plenty of experience with giant monsters. His biggest claim to fame is probably his time as the special effects director for the 90s Gamera trilogy, in which he produced some of the greatest imagery to come out of giant monster movies. Unfortunately, his work as director of the 2015 live-action Attack on Titan films was met with far less enthusiasm, but there's still his efforts with Anno to take into account. Higuchi did scripting and storyboarding for Neon Genesis Evangelion and the rebuild of Evangelion films. In 2012, the 2 Unleashed Giant God Warrior appears in Tokyo, a Nazca of the Valley of the Wind spin-off for Studio Ghibli. Then finally, they co-directed 2016's Shin Godzilla, and in my opinion, several of the aforementioned projects represent the heights of the genre. But what can be expected from Shin Ultraman? Promotional material suggests that the film might not be too far removed from ideas Shinji Higuchi expressed almost 2 decades ago now when he explained what he would do with Ultraman should he ever have the chance.
これはね、やっぱり侵略者とかいいですけどね。宇宙人が侵略してくるとかそういうことっていうのをちゃんと。バルタンとかああいう感じの。であったりもしかしたらウルトラマンそのものが善意の侵略者かもしれないっていう。たまたまウルトラマンって一番素晴らしいなと思うのってウルトラマンを受け入れる世界だと思うんですよ。実に見事な未だにあんな世界は実現してないしそれはそうだけどね、人間はとりあえず一丸となってるっていうようななんかこう平和な世の中ってのはできていない以上今この世の中にウルトラマンが来てもじゃあそれって何をする役割として何するのとか、そういうのはすごくこう突き詰めていくと逆に今の人間というのをちゃんとこう照らし出せるんじゃないかなというのはよく考えはするんですけど。
Higuchi raises a good point here. In the original TV series, the Science Patrol and the world at large readily accepted Ultraman as their hero from the stars. But is that how things would happen in reality? Looks like we're about to find out because, given the amount of attention the Science Patrol has received in advertisements, it seems quite possible that Shin Ultraman will be a human-centric film that goes into the minutiae of how the modern world would react to the presence of a super powerful alien. Is Ultraman on our side? Can he be trusted? But should Shin Ultraman go this route? It would also fall right in line with comments Anno made a long time ago about what he would do with an Ultraman story.
いや、僕はもう地球防衛軍というかそういうのをちゃんとやりたいです。ちゃんと。組織をそこだけやりたいですね。あ、組織を。ああいう組織が実在するとどうなるんだろうというのをシミュレーションでやっていきたいと思いますけどね。ああ、そうですか。最終的には出なくてもいいんですけど。何が？ウルトラマンとか。
The recent reveal that Zarab and Mephiles will be in the film makes it even more likely that Shin Ultraman will explore the reaction angle, and it can be expected that the aliens will help to foster hostility against Ultraman. Historically, that's the role they served. Evil aliens who oppose what Ultraman stands for and aim to sow discord. It's also something Anno has expressed appreciation for in the past, as can be seen here.
僕が一番好きなのはザラブ星人。ちょっとマイナーですけど、ザラブ星人がウルトラマンと逆っていうのが好きなんです。だからお仕事で地球にやってきて、こう人間を滅ぼす、知的生命体を滅ぼすのがお仕事なんです。そこがすごい好きだったんですよ。 ウルトラマンと全く逆の宇宙人っていうのがちゃんといる。
Another clue to what the film might explore can also be found in its tagline. Have you become so fond of humans, Ultraman? If this line seems familiar, it's because it's what Zophie asked Ultraman in the final episode of the original TV series. With that in mind, it's a pretty safe bet that there will be drama revolving around the ideas of heroism and Ultraman's relationship with humanity. Anno previously explored similar concepts in his 80s Ultraman fan film, and his other kaiju stories have been uniquely interested in dwelling on how its towering or alien creatures impact the world. So expecting more thoughtfulness of this nature and an introspective hero isn't out of the question. Ideally, Ultraman will overcome challenging dilemmas and ultimately showcase his greatest ability as a hero, which isn't his laser beams or strength, it's his ability to serve as an icon and inspire hope even in dark times. Those concepts developed over the course of a feature-length film should make for something really special if done well. Some of these ideas sound like things Man of Steel attempted almost a decade ago now, but hopefully they're done greater justice in Shin Ultraman. Continuing with the focus on realism, everything about the Science Patrol so far seems grounded. No colorful and retro-futuristic aesthetic or advanced technology for this iteration of the organization. Instead, they appear to be a special group within the government, something in the same vein as Rondo Yaguchi's task force in Shin Godzilla. Perhaps, should there be sequels, the group will gradually develop into the force we know and love. Hopefully, at the very least, this new team will offer something equal to the tremendous chemistry the original team had. So, what about Ultraman himself? While nothing like the drastic departure that Shin Godzilla was from earlier versions of Godzilla, many of you have probably noticed that Ultraman doesn't quite look the way he normally does, and well, that's because he doesn't. This particular take on the character is based on this 1983 painting, Incarnation of Truth, Justice, and Beauty, from Toru Narita, the designer of Ultraman. The painting expresses his original intent for the character, which means no color timer, no back fin, and no eye holes. These were all elements that resulted from the realities of dealing with a man in a suit, and were all against the wishes of Narita. In a press statement from 2019, Anno explained his intentions. The moment I saw Incarnation of Truth, Justice, and Beauty, painted by Mr. Toru Narita, I felt, can't we somehow put this beauty into a video? That was the starting point of the design concept for this work. How do we portray Ultraman himself when we present an epic-like work called Ultraman in modern times? The answer to the problem has already been decided. The aim is to reproduce what Mr. Narita wanted, which can only be done with current CG. Rebuilding that worldview in the present day could be challenging, but we did not feel the need to change that figure. We could find the design concept that we wanted, only by returning to the original created by Toru Narita and Akira Sasaki. You might also notice that Shin Ultraman isn't as buff as you're probably accustomed to seeing him. Well, that's because he's based on the body measurements of the original Ultraman actor, Ben Furuya. Ultraman was pretty slim in the original TV series, and Anno has opted to return to that aesthetic in a break from the buffer depictions Tsuburaya has used in recent years. Narita's son, Kari Narita, was moved by the respect paid to his late father. In 2019, he said the following in a press statement for Shin Ultraman. I won't forget the time when Hideaki Anno visited us in early spring of last year and said, I want to make Incarnation of Truth, Justice, and Beauty. I was so happy that I couldn't believe my ears. My father, Toru Narita, deeply loved and was proud of the Ultraman he created through trial and error. At the same time, his name, as the creator of Ultraman, was erased from the credits. The design was altered and it continues to be used commercially, creating feelings of deep sorrow and despair. He was misunderstood and slandered for speaking honestly about that. My father passed away in 2002 without his sorrow being healed, but I was brought up feeling proud of him, sometimes sad but always with respect. I remember my father's words, the real thing remains, so be the real thing. And last but not least, a quick look at box office prospects. The success the Ultra series has enjoyed in the realms of merchandising and television has never really translated into any significant command at box office. Putting aside bombs and disappointments like Ultra Q the movie and Ultraman the Next, most films seem to have only been modest successes. To date, the most successful of the many Ultra films was Superior Ultraman 8 Brothers in 2008, which grossed $8 million. Mere peanuts in comparison to the money Anno and Higuchi have made at box office in recent years. For example, in 2016, Shin Godzilla sold 5.69 million tickets, or in other words, grossed $79 million, making it by far the biggest hit the Godzilla series had in Japan since the early 1960s, and a huge hit in general. More recently, Anno's final rebuild of Evangelion film grossed almost $100 million. the end result of each film doing better than the last. Bearing in mind how the Ultra series has traditionally fared at box office, it might be unrealistic to expect Shin Godzilla-like business from Shin Ultraman, though it should easily outgross all previous theatrical Ultra efforts. In addition to the money it made, Shin Godzilla swept the Japanese Academy Awards, taking Best Picture, Director of the Year, and several other wins. The film also took home accolades from other Japanese associations like Cinema Junpo and Yokohama Film Festival, making it one of the most acclaimed films in the genre. It would be nice to see an Ultraman film achieve that sort of success. In some ways, Shin Ultraman seems a lot like Shin Godzilla thus far. The use of CG that aims to replicate the feel or look of suitmation, props, and miniatures, the use of classic sound effects in all their mono glory, and a collective working tirelessly to prevent disaster, likely of nuclear variety. Maybe there will also be cameos from actors of the original TV series. Maybe this speculation will age like milk in the scorching summer sun. But what do you think? What are you most excited or most worried about? Feel free to share what you're expecting from the film in the comment section below. But for now, I leave you with more of Kairi Narita's words. Ultraman, which danced in the minds of children of the Showa era, is reborn as Shin Ultraman for the children of the Reiwa era. We look forward to the birth of an unforgettable movie that will remain in the hearts of children.